Hey, Boat Dragons. It's a sad day. We have to talk about the death of mass market paperbacks today. Yes, the death knell has sounded, and major journalism outlets are talking about it. So we're going to talk about it too. And I'm going to start with sharing an article by Publishers Weekly. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I do want to highlight the beginning of the article and talk about a couple of other things that you can get from the article. And then we'll talk about some of the reasons that this is happening, what the trends are, and we'll talk about maybe some silver linings at the end, okay? All right, so Publishers Weekly listed an article called Last Call for Mass Market Paperbacks. The format credited with making books more accessible via low prices and widespread availability will all but vanish from the publishing scene in a few weeks. The decision made this winter by ReaderLink to stop distributing mass-market paperback books at the end of 2025 was the latest blow to a format that has seen its popularity decline for years. According to Circana BookScan, mass market unit sales plunged from 131 million in 2004 to 21 million in 2024, a drop of about 84%. And sales this year, meaning in 2025, sales in this year through October were about 15 million units. But for many years, the mass market paperback was the most popular reading format, notes Stuart Applebaum, former Penguin Random House EVP of Corporate Communications. Applebaum was also once a publicist at Bantam Books, one of the publishers credited with turning mass market paperbacks into what he calls a well-respected format. So I'm going to stop reading the article there, but I am going to link it below for you if you are interested in checking it out. It is a worthwhile read, so I highly recommend it. It goes on to highlight the history of mass market paperbacks, and it talks a little bit about how we got where we're at now with the death knell of mass market paperbacks happening. And it also talks about the impact of mass market paperbacks on reading, because it was a very popular and widely accessible format. So many more people started picking up books and reading more, and it really increased the popularity of reading. And so mass market paperbacks have been very important to reading culture and to book lovers. So it's a really sad day. But let's talk about how we got here and what the future holds. A lot of this comes down to declining sales and profitability. As the article stated, the publishing industry took a hit of over 80% when it comes to sales of mass market paperbacks. And that's a huge decline. I mean, publishers are in it to make money, right? Ultimately, yeah, they want to publish good books, but what's most important to them is making a profit off of those sales, right? And so that's a huge part of this. And also, mass market paperbacks were sold at a lower price point, which made them less profitable for publishers and for retailers. I mean, if you think about mass market paperbacks that you have personally bought, the general price for those books has been anywhere from $7.99 to $9.99. Most recently, mass market paperbacks have gone up quite a bit. But, you used to be able to buy them for even less than that. And of course, if you buy them used, you're going to pay even less. So it's just not a really lucrative format to produce. And so that's a big reason why this is happening. And of course, another big reason is the distribution shift. ReaderLink is pretty much the only place that still distributed mass market paperbacks, and now they have stopped, and they are a major distributor to big box stores like Walmart and Target and Costco and other places like those that regularly sell mass market paperback books. And even grocery stores and drugstores, you used to be able to walk in and go to the book and magazine section and pick up a random mass market paperback book, because that was what was easiest for those retailers to stock. And with ReaderLink eliminating their distribution channel for that altogether, that is a monumental reason why the format is going away. Rising costs also contribute to this. The cost of paper, the cost of labor workers to make the books, the exponential rise in shipping costs, especially to other countries. You know, if you want to ship books, it's just outrageously expensive. And so all of those things have contributed to it as well, because it's just more costly to produce such small books, and especially hard to keep them cheap while doing it. Consumer preferences have played into it as well. Consumers are tending toward a preference for larger and higher quality trade paperbacks. So those are the big floppy ones. They easily flop open and they're larger. The font tends to be larger as well. And so a lot of people are tending to prefer that over mass market paperback books. And a lot of people are reading ebooks as well. And there's even an upsurge in the purchase of hardcover books, because they look really nice on the shelf. As you can see, they're just really nice for presentation. They're not always the easiest to hold and read from, but they are really popular for keeping a shelf pretty and nice. And so a lot of people are buying hardcovers as well. So all of these things are just making mass market paperbacks less desirable, it would appear. And a lot of times mass market paperbacks are smaller and flimsier as well. They don't always hold up well. The spines can easily break, things like that. So they don't stay very nice. And so I think that contributes to it as well. Just the general overall preference for nicer books makes it a really undesirable format, I guess. And I think one of the biggest things in this conversation is the rise in popularity of ebooks, which I briefly mentioned, and also audiobooks. Audiobooks have seen a huge upsurge in the last few years, even going back a decade, because people can listen to books. It's more accessible for people who have poor eyesight and aren't able to read books, or maybe they're not able to use their eyes at all, so they're able to still read their books, but with audio format. And a lot of consumers in general just prefer audiobooks for their ease of use, for the ability to multitask and to do other things while you're listening to your book. It's a huge win for a lot of people. And so audiobooks have seen a huge upsurge. Ebooks, of course, are really popular. I know for myself personally, I prefer ebooks for a lot of reasons, but one reason is because I can change the font on demand, and you can't do that with physical books at all in general. So it gives you the option, if you're having a hard time seeing the text, to change the font size, things like that. So ebooks are very popular, and I do think they have really played a huge part in killing this format, unfortunately. I'm going to talk briefly here about my part in the problem, because I contribute to this. As I said, I love reading ebooks. It really is my preferred format to read most of my books, because I can change the font and so on. And I do listen to more audiobooks than I used to as well. And I'm not buying as many mass market paperbacks as I used to. So I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the reason this has happened. But it's also just kind of the nature of progress. Things change. Things go out of style. And I was just talking with my friend Mona Lisa today about the fact that there could be a new upsurge several years down the road with mass market paperbacks coming back into popularity because everything kind of changes and you see fads come and go and certain fads are coming back. And so mass market paperbacks could come back, but I kind of doubt that it's ever going to make a full resurgence and become popular again. It's possible, but I don't know that it's too likely. And we had that conversation come up because we were looking at Agatha Christie books and some of hers are kind of falling apart and she's thinking about replacing them. And I was mentioning the fact that they're going to become more scarce now and harder to get. Who knows? It may even become a collector's item and be more expensive to buy mass market paperback books because they're collector's items. So we don't know what kind of shifts this is going to make in the secondhand industry yet. I think that remains to be seen. This is just so new with the format going away as far as publishing brand new mass market paperback books. So I don't think we're going to see exactly what that looks like for the secondhand market for at least a year, maybe two. It's hard to say. But, I've definitely played my part. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I read ebooks. I love ebooks. I think it's a really good thing for people to be able to read ebooks and to read audiobooks. There is never anything wrong with more options. But it is kind of sad to think that that this format is going away. Like, I still read mass market paperback books, but it really depends on the font for me. When I go to the bookstore and I see a book in that format, I pick it up, and this is my copy of Cush Yellow's Dart. I pick it up, and the first thing I look at is the font size. Now, this font size is not bad. This is very readable for me. But, that's the first thing I look at. And I love the format. It's easy to carry around. I can even toss it in a small bag if I want to, and it's easy to take with me. But for me, it's the font. And if the font isn't great, then it becomes a less appealing reading option for me. I've got others that I still want to read. I've got Mystic River here by Dennis Lehane. I've got the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, the final trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings. I got this from my friend Tori over at Tori Talks, and the font is pretty good on these as well, and I'm really glad I got them, and they're in really good condition, but I might not be able to get books like this very much in the future. Secondhand is definitely going to be a good option, but who knows what that might cost in the future. I would say if you're wanting to get mass market paperbacks, head over to your local bookstore now or local used bookstore and pick up a few. As far as physical reading formats, it is my preferred format. It really is. If the font is good, I prefer reading a mass market paperback. My first preference is ebook, of course, but for physical, I prefer to read mass market paperback because it's not as heavy as trade paperbacks and hardbacks are. I like the look of hardbacks on my shelf, right? And I do read from them. But I love my mass market paperbacks, and I would hate to see them completely go away. But producing new mass market paperbacks is apparently not going to be a thing anymore, and the format is dying. So that's really sad. But there is a silver lining, okay? There's a silver lining. We can still purchase mass market paperbacks, at least right now, at used bookstores and independent bookstores. And most of the time, used bookstores are also independent. So you get the opportunity to support an independent bookstore and to go and find used copies that people have traded in for credit or for cash. And, you know, you get to pick that book up and put it in your library. So you can visit your local bookstore and support them. I think that's a huge win for this. And also, I don't know about other indie publishers, but I know of a few, myself included, who try to make smaller formats for our books. The mass market paperback format is not an option for self-publishing, but we can still do pretty decent sized formats. This is my newest book, The Nomad's Crucible, and it's a 5x8. You know, it's a trade paperback technically, but it's a smaller format than traditional trade paperbacks, and it's still got a little bit of portability to it. And so, you know, it gives self-publishers an opportunity to create those formats that people love and are easy for them to pick up and more accessible, things like that. So that is a silver lining as well. There's not a lot of marketing out there for self-published authors, right? We have to do our own. So it doesn't mean that that's going to flood the market, but it is an option because we can create smaller books in the process of publishing our books. So there's that. There's some silver linings. I didn't want to end the video on a hopeless note because there is still hope. I don't think mass market paperbacks are completely going away as far as disappearing from the market altogether. Brand new ones, it sounds like that it's not going to be a thing anymore. But buying them used, I think, is still going to be an option for at least another decade. And then who knows, maybe the format will come back. It just remains to be seen. Don't let this discourage you. If you love the mass market paperback format like I do, you can probably snag some used copies, some really good quality used copies. So I want to encourage you with that, but I was really sad to see this. It's sad that more accessibility to different formats of books has made this particular format go away. But we can still get the books. So that's all I have to say on the topic. Let me know in the comments what you think of this really rather bittersweet news. I would love to have a conversation with you and dialogue with you about it, see what your thoughts are on the matter. And until next time, guys, make sure you read more books. And I think I'm going to go pick up a mass market paperback now.